Okay, hi everybody. I'm Aaron Utley. This is Holy Spirit. Welcome back. I am joined here with Justin Roberts
What's up?
and Kaleel.
Gotta pronounce my last name.
Kaleel
Kano
Kanoa
Double.
Duble.
I'll take
No?
that. Kaleel
Correct?
Kano Double.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
So
take that one.
yeah, we never really introduced ourselves before. So I'll let Justin go first. And yeah, just
Oh, hi. Hi, y'all. I'm Justin. Justin Roberts. I mean, as you previously said.
yeah.
And we're here with.
Well, I'm
Kaleel.
Kaleel. I guess we get a little bit more into personal life, but I think what we also want to kind of connect with the people that are watching, kind of connect with our audience is who we are in our relationships with each other. So I think that's just the basic idea of,
Yeah. And
getting our names in there.
today we are talking about we just have a topic about guys, just guys, our lives, and I think we could just um go the flow. Who are we? Where we come from and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I I'll start off. I know Justin here the longest, and I remember meeting Justin in work. Um, he I'd say my first impression of Justin was a very cool guy. He had long hair before. Well, Oliver does see you had
Wow, yeah.
Yeah,
They
let's
know.
see
They
what he
know. They
looks.
know.
yeah,
Yeah.
he
I
had
think they
dreads
know.
in the first episodes. He had dreads. Very cool guy. Fashionable, and yeah, just overall cool and collected. And I think that that has translated to the episodes and stuff like that. I remember the first one I recorded together. It's very cool, very calm. Um,
Oh, well, I'm flattered.
yeah.
I
Honestly.
want to jump in there and ask a question. Do you know he was a believer when you first met him?
That's
Yes.
interesting.
Wait, when I first met him, the conversation that we had, I figured out. But before, well, before it's because I saw him through fashion and stuff like that. I wasn't too sure,
Mm-hmm.
but he always look, a little holy. he always,
A
he
little
didn't.
holy.
Yeah. He didn't have too much of a bad look. Like he didn't look like anything.
But
I think that's honestly an interesting question. Probably same thing you was going to say. Interesting.
yeah, I think it's
question.
interesting because we being sons of God,
Yeah.
supposed to basically bring Christ onto the earth, and I think it's interesting like how people would interact with us and perceive us to know if we really doing that. So
Yeah.
you not knowing if he's a believer or not before you met him, interacting with him, it's cool that kind of almost quickly you realize there's something a bit different about this person, whether it's how he dress or how he act, how he talk. Maybe he just started to talk to you about Jesus one time off the bat. So like how us as sons, every day on the earth, could bring heaven onto the earth,
Mm-hmm.
could show people Christ without maybe even just saying, I am a believer or I am this or I am that, but just maybe by the things you do, the things how you act, you
Yeah.
know?
I
Yeah.
think well, you know them by your fruits, right?
Yeah.
I see something this morning. It's like it's a meme actually, but I don't think it's a meme. But it's like the branch with the most fruits bows the lowest,
All
or
right.
something like that. And
I
it
guess
was
it's
just
heavy.
I guess in the picture it was just a branch bound very low to the floor,
Okay.
and I see it as like humility,
Oh.
and like
Right.
the humblest of people will bear the best of fruits, and I think that's a great question actually to ask if you knew that he was a believer before, and I remember like not getting it at first to outwardly show Christ or reflect Christ in your actions and thoughts and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I understood that I was a Christian and um yeah, like I definitely knew what I was about and stuff like that. Maybe outwardly I didn't show that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only after like as a guy just growing up and well I'm the youngest out of all the, three guys here. I don't know if you could tell. But But yeah, it's only growing up and like actually taking on that mantle of, I am going to have to be a leader. Um, and the weight of just how you act and talk and your thoughts and stuff like that, all those things have weight to it.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I guess I could ask a question to older guys,
Mm-hmm.
advice on taking up that mantle because it is a mantle that you have to take up at the end of the day. Regardless, like any guy, you're gonna have to take up that leadership position. You're gonna have to.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I just turned 30 this year,
Oh,
and it's really like a,
That is a
it's really
big
like
number.
in your 20s, just you at least your late 20s, you're like a proper adult,
Mm-hmm.
but you can still kind of get away with being 20, like a kid, kind of immature and stuff, and even leading
So,
up to
so we
becoming,
kids.
even leading up to becoming 30 is like at first it was kind of scary because you don't have that kind of you
Mentality.
know era to
Pressure,
fall back
almost,
onto.
right.
Like you don't have that like I still in my 20s, I could get away with stupidness. Like I looking at 30, I was like, I'm a proper adult. Like I
Mm.
have no mommy and daddy. Of course, it
It's
have
true.
support still, but as you say, you're a big man. One day I have to lead a family.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually been on my mind a lot. Like at some point I had to get married, have to be able to lead a wife, children, and was kind of watching over that episode that we put out recently, kind of timestamp this episode, the one of
Mhm.
leaving fair. And I remember like in that episode, it felt like I was talking to myself watching it over in that
Agree.
I was putting off all these things, but I wasn't putting on the the blood of Jesus. I wasn't putting on strength and power and authority as much as I was putting off, the fear and anxiety. So it was just kind of me being a bit ambiguous. And I kind of felt like recently, now that I was kind of in that mode again, but it kind of strengthened me to know that I was thinking about that then.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of came full circle for me. I forgot we recorded that episode. I kind of forgot all about that because when we recorded it, I didn't really think of it being posted.
Mm-hmm.
I may be going a bit in depth into that episode, but it was just kind of a tester at first. So I felt like I went real in depth into some personal things.
Yeah.
But back to your question about leadership, I think it's really just putting it on, like accepting
Mhm.
that these are the things you have to do, whether they're good, bad, or ugly, and just walking in them. Just kind of also accepting that you you might not be there yet, but you could still do the things to become that person, or to
Mm.
you could still do the things knowing that you are that person now, even if you don't feel like. Okay, maybe give an example. Like I'm not a husband right now,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to wait until I become a husband to act like a husband. Or I'm
So
not
you
gonna,
Mm.
walk in it now.
yeah, walk in it now. I'm not gonna wait to become a husband to have a level of authority or to have a level of insight spiritually or to maybe just to lead the general people around me. If I see a youth doing something stupid, I'm not gonna wait until I have a youth to deal with a youth
Yeah.
in a way that a man should.
Mm-hmm.
So it's walking in it now, even if you maybe might doubt yourself or you can't wait until there's no switch that's gonna flip to make you that person.
Mm.
You already are because we have everything once you receive Christ, right? So it's just how you allow Christ to shine in you and come out to you in the same way. Like I started with the question about did you know that Justin was a believer? Did you see that on him? And I just say you could tell by your fruit. So it's really just making a decision and bearing the fruit. Getting to that point to be
And
able
I
to
think
bear
it's
it.
really a beautiful thing in just being a child of God is that you said they don't have to wait until you're married or to be a husband.
Mm-hmm.
So like we just children of God and
Mm-hmm.
we are children of God. So it's really just to walk in that and
Mm-hmm.
you know that, believe that, and
Mm.
carry that with us everywhere we go
Yeah.
in everyday life.
How would you say, and since the topic we are talking about just like from a male point of view, like leadership and well, in my opinion, right, I think there's a mantle or like a certain level of responsibility that a man has, but is not made known very clearly, or well, I don't know if you all would agree with that. It's not made clearly known to the well, okay,
I
like a
kind of
teenager.
agree and I
Mm-hmm.
kind of disagree because I could see in the world where it's not made known
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like, how men, it can't, the world broken in a
It's
sense.
distorted.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
distorted. So to be a leader, you have to have a certain level of authority. And I think what the world is trying to do is break down men and get them to not walk in that authority
Mm-hmm.
or to see themselves as weak or to try to empower women and create a kind of unbalance in those relationships versus when you go in the Bible, it's a very clear relationship in how men should lead the woman and how women should submit themselves to their husbands. And I think even that goes beyond a marriage. Like even in our little group here, you can see the dynamic where, and I mean, the girls are not lower than us,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see the dynamic where sometimes the men just had to say, okay, this is what
Pick
we
up
doing. Hey, this is
mantles
what we
and
doing,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that understandable in terms of reading the word and understanding how women would look to men in certain things. 'Cause I could see quite easily, just in the seven of us here, Ari missing, but how the girls do things, certain things better than we could, you know, in terms of organization and stuff. Simple thing. I go into the grocery with Zyle yesterday and I'm ready to just grab whatever it is. Me really care to think about what I grab. And she's like, you wanna think about that a little bit more?
Yeah.
This not making sense. I was like, all right, fair, this, you know. But I could have as a man, you could have a way of thinking about it, but the woman would add a certain level of balance. So again, to answer your question, I think in the world is a bit distorted, but in the Bible, it's very clear the relationship that a man and a woman should have.
So I think it's almost like a natural thing
Yeah.
for men.
Really,
Leaders
yeah.
almost it's like part of our nature.
Nature. And
Yeah.
well, you'd say that's natural now, because you see a lot of like guys. You say it's natural, right? And I think I agree. I think within every guy there is that natural born leader. Um, whether it's like whether it's seen one time or not, but I feel like no, a lot of times is popular or like a trend maybe to have a laid back approach and not really
Not
be
really try.
not step up to that and seeing it as something tedious, or they don't see the benefits, or like like why do this, or
Why
why
do
step
it?
up as a leader, or why to you know.
Yeah.
So I
Right.
think is the value of that. Like what would you say is the value of stepping up to that mantle that is within our nature?
The value of
Yeah.
being a leader, stepping up and being a leader.
I think I could understand or I could relate to seeing it sometimes as a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Like if anything go wrong in your marriage, let's say you married to a woman, right? You the one that have to take the downfall. Eve eat the apple, but God came to Adam, right? So in anything you're the one that takes the responsibility, and that could seem like a burden. Easy to watch it like a burden, but at the same time, it also easy to watch it. Maybe not easy, but it's don't know the word, but it's interesting to watch it
Like
as a privilege, as a
yeah.
blessing. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like I I could be the one that leads this, even if it goes rocky. It was my choices, and that's fine. But I try to circle myself to example. I was talking to a friend about where um as the man, and then you have the woman, right? And linking it back to Adam and Eve. You think about maybe Adam and Eve in the garden. This is an example I heard somewhere before, but Eve ate the Adam. Eve ate the apple. Cut that out, Aaron. Eve ate the apple,
Apple.
but
Yeah.
it didn't really say that Adam was, 10 blocks away. He was pretty much right there. So if Adam was as a man in his authority, just stepped up and said, Eve, what stupidness you doing? Act quickly and decided to just like, pow, get
I think I
apple
heard somebody
out of
said
her.
this already. You know?
Yeah, but it make real sense. Says like if you just walk up to her and just like bash the apple out
Yeah,
her hand,
we doing.
we be cool now, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
it might have happened. I don't know. It might have happened down the line. Maybe it's something that had to happen. I don't know. But at the end of the day, Adam stand up right there
And watch.
and just watch her,
Yeah.
right? And there's a sense of passivity that I could see in my life where
Mm.
I might be seeing something that I know could pick up legs and grow into a big monster. And if I was to just stamp it now, it would be done and dusted. But I might just rock back and say, oh gosh, I'm going to get involved in that. Or, I have to be the bigger man, or I have to have the strength or the courage or whatever it is. And I think that's kind of where we see it as a burden versus where we could see it as a privilege to be like, just stamp that out and protect my family.
Mm-hmm.
And that now and just save all the trouble that, the future could hold with that. So that's kind of my perspective on it. And that's kind of at least in my life how I trying to look at it
Mm.
as in a way to not just help me and the people around me, but to glorify God as well, because that's the authority that God gave us. So if I just there wiki I'm passive and I see in this, I see my child going to stick the fork in the plug and I say nothing,
Mm-hmm.
then who's
Just
stupid there? The
let
child or
him,
me?
just let him
You know,
go.
like what? That not making sense.
And I think even in my life, right? Again, circling back to the question you asked first, like if I knew he was a Christian, and just knowing them by their fruits, I saw like a big change. I made a decision last year to be more involved in the social groups I was in outside of church now. So in uni, um, wherever I might go, like whatever social groups I might be in, make
Mhm.
be more present because I was kind of like on business all the time. Like in school, I wear shades all the time, and I go to class and I leave one time because
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I have stuff to do. But
He was on all that people thing.
yeah, I wasn't really. And I heard, um, was it Cohen? Somebody said be more people motivated than purpose motivated. You know,
Mm-hmm.
seek people out
Yeah.
more than your plans and your agendas and your schedules and stuff that you want to do. And I
Mhm.
think personally, as uh, this doesn't really necessarily have to cater towards a guy alone, but just me being present in certain social situations, me actually speaking up and getting to know people,
Mm-hmm.
talking to them. I saw changes within my friend groups, and even people told me like I look different, I sound different, but it's like I not much change. Well, to me, not much change, but just that action or that decision to be present in that situation, to actually use your voice, and I feel like it's a very very good reason why the enemy might try to make guys passive or not, like laid back, and because
Mm-hmm.
there's power in your voice, your actions, and like regardless of where you are, what situations you placed in, people look at you. People look at the way you talk, the way you live,
Mm-hmm.
and as simple as like in school when I around my friend group and stuff that they although they do, bite it all the time, but they know I'm not really on like the curse and stuff. And they just try not to do those kind of things around me because like they know the kind of vibe I'm on, and but they know me by my fruits. They know that, and I think that is what although they might not, you know, when I'm not there care, but I think that's still a step
Is in a
in.
way a
It's
kind of
still a
planting a seed.
seed.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
a step. Um, it's still a step towards something good. It mightn't be anything big or groundbreaking in their lives, but it's still a step just by you being there, present, and actually being a reflection of Christ in that social setting.
And that's kind of like the natural leadership in you. I
Yeah.
would say it's like you you understand that. All right, I have to stand out. I have
Hmm.
to be different. I have to act different, and people look at that and they follow. So that's
Yeah.
kind of like your natural born leadership
Yeah. And we call to
skills
be the
inside
light
you.
too.
Yeah.
Light to the world. Where you think you could identify any situations? I know you in business, but I could testify this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I witness, in business a lot of leadership and just in general, but I'll let you talk on that. You go ahead,
So what's
because
the question?
yeah, in business, really. Well, it doesn't have to be
Mm-hmm.
related to business, but just in your life where you see that mantle, and something I just realized, we sit in an order of age. So I'm the youngest.
Wow.
Wow.
He's no, but
Oldies.
it's kind of like three different perspectives. Not
Yeah.
like the earliest, then midway, and then
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
not the oldest, but like the furthest along. Sorry, sorry.
I take that. A level of maturity.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So where you see that in your life, Justin?
Where do I see leadership mantles in my
Mm-hmm.
life? I would say in definitely in business,
Mm-hmm.
because I work in a I would say secular environment, and it's really interesting to see being in the space of fashion business on the whole,
Mm-hmm.
and you work with people that you know are not believers,
Mm-hmm.
but by the way you live,
Mm-hmm.
as in me, and even yourself as well too, you said that you have a lot of testimony on that. And even in school, you say, well, okay, you're talking to friends, and they know that you're not really on the secular person, slack talk kind of vibes. So they would adjust their behavior to suit around you. And it's much like on the business place as well too. Even in the industry of fashion or creativity, I think a lot of the fashion creative industry is really perverted
Yeah.
nowadays,
It
especially
is.
in Trinidad, and especially the time as well too. Right
Yeah.
now, February Carnival,
Mm-hmm.
everything is very promiscuous and
Mm-hmm.
nudity driven, and you know highly sexual. And even in spaces like that, people respect you for what you stand for.
Mm.
So I would say in yeah, in spaces in business, in my family as well too. They're not really much devoted believers, but they understand and respect a lot of my beliefs and the things that I stand for, like the direction I'm trying to head towards with God. And it's even great to see like some of them come into the light a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
like um
I think that's a big
asking,
reward there.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
asking questions, um, coming to the realization of, whoa, maybe I'm living 1 foot in with God, 1 foot
Mm-hmm.
out in the world, and like to me, stuff like that is like a testimony. It's like, wow, these people could really, they could see the light a little bit. Yeah, they might not be fully um, submersed in Christ just yet, but they could see the light through you, and I think that is what we are to be as men,
And I think,
natural born leaders like that.
yeah, I think just being a son of God is again walking and bringing His presence onto the earth. And I think that's really what God wants us to do in terms of like being in the settings that we are in, whether it be in work or secular or whatever it is. But people, because even in my work as well, like people know that I'm a believer and they were trying not to curse. And I find that kind of interesting because I was like, this, why, why are you doing that
For me.
for me?
Yeah, right,
Because it's
right,
not for me. Like I watch them and say like, not bothering me, you know. I mean, of course, I'd rather not hear it, but it seemed like you're doing it for me, which I don't really
versus
understand.
not
Versus
doing it
like
for
maybe doing it
God.
for you,
Oh,
because and I don't know, I don't understand that kind of relationship and like why you would do it for me. Maybe in a way it's kind of planting a seed in them so they understand that you're not supposed to be doing those things. Maybe some way along the way it might be something that develops to them to realize, oh, Jesus Christ, get their life to
mhm.
Christ and stuff like that. But I think ultimately it's us walking, bringing heaven onto the earth, and people kind of seeing that, and you planting a seed, basically. So I'm sure each of our lives, as we walk with Christ, we're able to impart something onto somebody, and you never know what that could develop to, because we were once not believers. I was
Mhm.
once in the world partying, drinking, smoking, womanizing, all of those things. But at some point, I kind of ask myself, something wrong. Like I feel like this not making sense. And so many broken relationships with girls. I know in my heart I want to get married. I know I'm just not gonna flip a switch and stop womanizing or cheating or watching porn and those kind
Mhm.
of things. So it came to a point where I doing these things for years, whatever I do and not working. And I had to ask God, like, God, if you're real, I'll give you a chance. I will try whatever it takes. I'll give you a chance and see if you're able to clean my life. And I was talking to a brethren the other day, one that I went to school with in QRC. And in talking to him, it's like I was ministering to myself because we kind of reliving all the things that we would have
Right.
done. And I was like, wait, I was thinking of dog.
That usually
I was
happens,
really the
sir. You end
worst
up
of the
ministering to
worst of the
yourself.
dog. Like, I was doing dog. Like, why was I doing any of that? But I found I found a point in my life where I realized it was something was missing and I had to come to God. And in coming to Christ, it was because maybe somebody brought me to church.
Right.
Or was knowing like, okay, like somebody was able to talk Christ to me. And it planted a seed in my heart where I was able to understand, all right, this
Like
life
a
I
real
live in.
simple act
Yeah, this
grew
life
into
I
something.
yeah, it could be just at least at that point my heart was open to it and I was
Right.
able to receive. So I think for us, you never know. Sometimes you might question like, oh gosh, that person looking like hard or they looking tough or something.
Yeah.
And you be like, nah, they're not gonna receive anything I wanna say. But you really don't know the position that they're in, because somebody could have watched me doing all my stupidness and say he not gonna receive that. Meanwhile, my heart was open to receive it. And it's when
Mhm.
somebody, talk to me about Christ, invite me to church, but by better started come. And my life that is now is 100% different from the life I was living 5 years ago, 3 years ago, And I mean, even that is motivation to say, next year I could still be another person. The year after that, I could hit another glory. The year
Sure.
after that, I could be on another level. Just looking at how far I came. So, like I
Yeah.
remember you in our group chat, you're saying like, it's interesting to just take pictures of people or ask somebody to take a picture
That
with
was
them.
really cool. I
And yes,
really
Yeah.
enjoyed that.
and yesterday I stand up in the mall and I see this couple trying to take a selfie in front of the fountain in
Yeah.
Westmore. And I remembered what you said, and I'm like, I know maybe in the past I'll just ignore them and just move on with my life. And I was like, let me just go and help them, and I ask them and I take the pictures for them. And they were just so happy, and I really enjoyed that interaction.
Yeah.
But I could also see the other side where I could have been so hard in my heart or so stuck to
Yeah.
myself or not have compassion for people and be like, oh, they go figure it out.
Also in your head, like,
Yeah, like wondering,
I
oh
wonder
gosh, they're
this.
gonna let me do it. They're gonna like
Yeah,
the
would I be
pictures.
bothering
Can I do it
them?
properly? You know, like, but it was just such a freeing thing to just be like, or there was some help. And it's like, yeah, of course, the woman
Yeah.
phone big. And I'm like, I never operate a phone this big and we having conversation and thing. And it was like a real nice interaction. But if I was in my head about it,
Mm.
that would have never happened, you know. And they seem so appreciative of it. They left feeling happy and all of that. And I mean, that's not necessarily telling them about Jesus, but
Mhm.
never know
Mm-hmm.
what that could do for them. That could have opened up
Yeah.
their heart to just be happy. And somebody walking out with them might have mentioned Jesus to them, and bam, their life changed, you know.
Amen.
So I think ultimately, like being a son of Jesus, I'm gonna pass it back to you and just now, 'cause I feel like I'm rambling.
Now you good.
That's fine. That's fine. I enjoy the ramble.
But I feel like ultimately being a son, walking in authority, and being able to just bring his presence onto earth, but just not be in your head. Know the authority, know the boldness, know the courage, know Christ in you, and be able to share that with people every day. And that's a real intentional choice. Like right now, since I turned 30, it's been waking up every day and just treating today as a day I could serve Christ. Not worrying about yesterday, not worrying about tomorrow, but what could I do today, Lord? Maybe I'm not the most emotionally savvy person. You might call me emotionally dense at times. I could accept that, but I'm like, Lord, maybe there's one thing I could do to get a little closer to you in terms of being more emotionally available and um, that kind of thing. And I see my interactions with people changing already just by
Yeah.
doing that. Instead of me, like I give an example. This example I really like because I just feel like it was such a big one, even though I'll tell you all and you'll look at it like. But
Nah, I don't.
I was sitting down with somebody who was pregnant. I don't know if you want to cut that name that I said. We could ask her.
Yeah.
But I guess she probably have, I don't know. We will
Nah,
figure
I
that
think
out.
she's
I'll
cool.
take it
She's
out.
cool.
Um,
She's cool.
I'll take it out.
But somebody who's pregnant came and she was sitting next to me and she was looking real sick. Like I could see that she's sick. And in my flesh, I just wanted to be like, I don't want to have a child. But I know that's me not wanting to deal with the emotional side of it. I could accept that as my flesh. I just want, something else I thought too, but I can't say that here. But I just wanted to tell her, and well, hot child, like in a real kicks way now. I know that's my defense. And like, I don't want to deal with her. I don't want to deal with her feeling sick and telling me about her sickness. And I could accept that in my flesh. But I was able to recognize that in the moment and be like, let me not do it in that way. Are you okay? You feeling good? Think you need anything? You know, and I'm trying to figure out, okay, you drive.
So you
I
kind
think
of counteract the flesh.
yeah, I
Yeah,
said,
yeah.
let me deal with it in a relational way, you know, in a way that it's not me just defending myself, not wanting to deal with it and find somebody else to deal with it.
Mhm.
But I'm like, you okay? I'm trying to figure out how to get her home because she drove and she's not looking like she could drive. And we were able to work it out, and she got home. She didn't have to drive. We prayed for her. But you can see the difference in those two
Oh, full
interactions,
circle.
right?
Oh,
You
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah.
But that was me. That I could understand why you say emotionally danced, as I just don't want to deal with
Yeah.
them thing. But as a
And-
man with authority, with compassion, you know, Jesus is a man that wept. We have all those things in us. So it's not to say that we saw you.
Thank you, Renee, for
Yeah.
It's not to
Time
say
on.
that, kind of going back to what I was saying about like, you don't have to wait to get it.
Yeah.
Because I know Jesus went to Lazarus' tomb and he wept. I know Jesus had compassion when he saw the crowd coming to him. So if I claim in that Jesus in me, then I already have them things in me. So it's just to make a choice to say flesh or spirit. And then to that, before we wrap up, I want to read Romans
So as
8.
men, we real emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you cannot want to deal with those things, but that's a part of
I mean, I feel like
relationship.
majority of people kind of push that down, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you guys. But I
Men
definitely
can't cry.
Yeah, can't
Mm.
cry.
But let me just read Romans 8:11. And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead is also given life to your mortal bodies because of his spirit who lives in you. Right? I want to skip forward. So, therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation not to the flesh. So, not for me to make a stupid comment and be like, I want a hot child and just move on with my life. But we have an obligation to live by the spirit. For it is you, for if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. For those who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. So I think even just in that act of me denying the flesh and being more relational and, allowing the Spirit to flow through me to help her, I could see myself as a child of God, as a son of God there, just in that moment. Maybe in somebody other trippiness I do, it will try to counteract that, but ultimately, because I have God's Spirit in me, I'm always a child of God. That doesn't change whether I say something stupid like you want to have a child
Yeah.
or not. But because I have God in me, because I have the Holy Spirit in me, Jesus in me, I have an obligation to put to death that stupidness, put to death my emotional denseness,
Yeah.
and say, I have compassion.
Yeah.
I could weep if she want to cry and I cry with her. I could
cry
do
with
that,
her, yeah.
I could
Wow.
get to that point.
There's something looked down upon, like you said Jesus wept, right? And I think like emotionally, just for guys, it's something really looked down upon to show that emotion when it's completely normal. It's something feminine
Mm-hmm.
to show that emotion and stuff like that. When I think that, well, I guess I'm still trying to figure this out, but the reason why obviously is just a distorted view on life on a whole
Mm.
that would kind of push you to men can't cry and you have to be tough all the time. You have to show no emotion. You can be soft and talk about delicate topics and stuff like that. But I think yeah, what you think is the reason? Like something definitely have to be at work, like on a deeper level, to wanna from young, cause like little boys
I
think
think
like that, like they
I guess
can't
that's
cry
kind
and
of
stuff like
boiled
that.
down to what the world is trying to push and how the enemy would try to break down those relationships and
Mm-hmm.
get men to see themselves as feminine, or I don't know if we could say the alphabet. We might get taken down from YouTube,
Yeah,
them
it's
kind of
not nice.
thing. But that's a question we could probably answer on another
Yeah,
episode because our producer's telling us to wrap it up
yeah,
right now. So if
yes.
you
I
made
guess
it this far, like and subscribe, drop a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the
Thanks so
topic.
much, y'all, for
Thanks
yeah.
for
tuning in.
watching.
I was here or not, Lee.
This is our Son of God. We're naming the
Oh, I
episode.
was gonna.
Sons of God.
Yeah.
Children of
This
God.
might make it into the episode. I
This-
don't know.
Yeah, it really mightn't.
Thanks
Son
for
of
watching, guys.
Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.
God, men of God, sons of God.
Men of God. Yeah.
Men of God.
Men
eh?
of God.
That's our literature.
Sons of God.
Well, you know, do
Yeah,
a
men of
raw.
God.
Men
we
of
read
gods,
in
yeah.
secondary school. We had to wrap it up now. We had to
Raw.
wrap it up.
Men of God, raw.